There is a simple paste that costs less than $3, yet its effects on the skin can rival products that sell for hundreds. It requires no prescription, no multi-step routine, and no complicated formulations, just 2 natural ingredients that have been used for centuries across different civilizations. But once you begin to understand how this mixture actually works on a biological level, something deeper becomes clear. This isn't a new discovery. It's knowledge that somehow faded away over time. And when knowledge this effective disappears, it raises a much bigger question. Was it ever meant to be forgotten? The global skincare industry is worth over hundreds of billions of dollars built on a promise that healthier skin requires complex routines, specialized formulations, and a constant stream of new products. From cleansers and toners to serums and creams, consumers are taught that each step is essential, each ingredient carefully engineered, and each product a necessary part of the process. Over time, this complexity has become normalized. A simple solution feels almost suspicious, as if effectiveness must come with a higher price tag or scientific branding to be trusted. The idea that something natural, inexpensive, and widely accessible could outperform modern formulations challenges the entire foundation of the industry. And yet across different cultures and historical periods, there are records of people achieving remarkably resilient and healthy skin without any of these modern systems. No laboratories, no patented formulas, no 10-step routines. Which leads to a quiet but uncomfortable question: if simpler methods already existed, why did they disappear from mainstream use? Long before the rise of modern skincare laboratories, ancient civilizations had already developed their own methods for maintaining healthy skin, relying entirely on natural substances found in their environment. In ancient Egypt, for example, records show that honey was widely used not only as a cosmetic treatment, but also as a medicinal substance applied directly to wounds and skin irritations. Its ability to preserve and protect made it one of the most valued materials of the time, often reserved for both royalty and healing practices. Similarly, in the traditions of Ayurveda, one of the world's oldest holistic healing systems originating in India, over 3,000 years ago, turmeric was considered a powerful therapeutic agent. It was used in pastes applied to the skin to reduce inflammation, improve complexion, and accelerate healing. These practices were not based on branding or commercial products, but on observation repetition and generational knowledge passed down through centuries. Across Asia and the Middle East, combinations of honey and turmeric appeared repeatedly in traditional remedies. These mixtures were simple, accessible, and remarkably consistent in their results. People relied on them not because they were trendy, but because they worked in real, observable ways. What is particularly striking is how widespread this knowledge once was. It wasn't hidden or exclusive. It belonged to communities, families, and everyday routines. There were no patents, no proprietary formulas, and no barriers to access. Anyone could use these ingredients, and many did. However, as industrialization expanded and modern cosmetic science began to emerge, these traditional practices gradually faded from common use. The shift toward manufactured skincare products introduced new standards: clinical testing, branding, packaging, and ultimately commercialization. Over time, older methods were increasingly seen as outdated, unscientific, or simply irrelevant in a rapidly modernizing world. Yet the disappearance of these practices wasn't due to a lack of effectiveness. In many cases, it was the opposite. Their simplicity made them difficult to commercialize, and their accessibility meant they offered little opportunity for exclusivity or large-scale profit. And so quietly, and without much resistance, knowledge that had once been universal began to slip into the background, remembered only in fragments of traditional medicine and cultural rituals, while the world moved on to something far more complex and far more profitable. What makes this simple mixture so effective is not mystery, but chemistry. Both honey and turmeric contain active compounds that interact with the skin at a biological level, influencing inflammation, bacterial growth, and tissue repair in ways that modern skincare products often attempt to replicate synthetically. Honey, for instance, is a natural antimicrobial substance. One of its key mechanisms lies in its ability to produce small amounts of hydrogen peroxide when it comes into contact with moisture. This creates an environment that inhibits the growth of bacteria, including those commonly associated with acne and skin infections. In addition, honey has a high sugar concentration and low water activity, which further prevents microbial survival while drawing moisture into the skin, supporting hydration and barrier repair. Turmeric, on the other hand, contains an active compound known as curcumin. Curcumin has been extensively studied for its anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties. When applied to the skin, it helps reduce redness, calm irritation, and limit oxidative stress, one of the key factors behind premature aging and skin damage. It also influences cellular signaling pathways involved in wound healing, encouraging faster regeneration of damaged tissue. When combined, these two ingredients create a synergistic effect. Honey acts as both a delivery medium and a protective barrier, allowing turmeric's active compounds to remain in contact with the skin for longer periods. At the same time, the antimicrobial properties of honey reduce the risk of infection, while turmeric addresses inflammation at its source. Modern skincare products often attempt to isolate or mimic these same effects using synthesized ingredients, stabilizers, and preservatives. However, in doing so, they introduce additional variables such as potential irritants, reduced bioavailability, or the need for complex formulations to maintain shelf life. In contrast, the natural mixture operates without these constraints, maintaining its functional integrity in a much simpler form. Scientific studies from dermatological research institutions and universities have repeatedly confirmed the antibacterial properties of honey and the anti-inflammatory effects of curcumin. While these findings are often discussed in clinical or academic contexts, they rarely translate into mainstream consumer awareness in their simplest form, because when the mechanism is fully understood, the conclusion becomes difficult to ignore. The effectiveness of this mixture is not accidental. It is rooted in well-established biological interactions that have been observed for centuries, long before modern skincare attempted to recreate them in a bottle. To understand why this knowledge never became mainstream again, it's necessary to look at how the modern skincare industry actually operates. Today, the global beauty and skincare market generates hundreds of billions of dollars annually, with a business model built not on one solution, but on many. Cleansers, exfoliants, toners, serums, moisturizers, masks, each product designed to solve a specific part of a larger problem. This structure creates something extremely valuable: recurring consumption. Instead of offering a single complete solution, the industry encourages routines that require multiple steps and continuous purchasing. The more complex the routine, the more products are needed, and the more revenue is generated over time. In this system, simplicity becomes a threat. A mixture made from two natural, inexpensive ingredients cannot be patented, cannot be exclusively owned, and cannot be easily scaled into a high-margin product line. Without intellectual property protection or brand differentiation, there is little incentive for large companies to invest in promoting it. Instead, resources are directed toward developing formulations that can be branded, marketed, and legally protected. Even when natural ingredients like honey or turmeric are included in products, they are often diluted, modified, or combined with synthetic compounds to create something that can be positioned as unique. This is not necessarily a coordinated effort to hide information, but rather the result of economic incentives shaping what becomes visible to consumers. Research tends to follow profitability, marketing follows scalability, and awareness follows advertising budgets. And so, over time, solutions that are simple, accessible, and difficult to monetize gradually fade into the background. Not because they failed, but because they didn't fit the system that replaced them. Understanding the science and history behind this mixture is one thing, but applying it in a practical and safe way is equally important. The preparation itself is straightforward, requiring only raw honey and a small amount of turmeric powder. Typically, a ratio of 1 tablespoon of honey to a pinch of turmeric is enough to create a smooth, spreadable paste. Before applying it to the face, it is recommended to perform a patch test on a small area of skin, as turmeric can occasionally cause mild irritation or temporary staining, especially on lighter skin tones. Once tested, the mixture can be applied evenly to clean skin and left on for approximately 10 to 15 minutes before being rinsed off with warm water. Used consistently, this simple routine can support skin recovery, reduce inflammation, and improve overall texture. However, it is not intended to replace medical treatment for severe conditions, but rather to complement basic skincare. Its strength lies not in complexity, but in consistency and understanding. When you step back and look at the bigger picture, it becomes clear that not all effective solutions disappear because they stop working. Sometimes they disappear because they are too simple, too accessible, and too difficult to turn into a profitable system. The mixture of honey and turmeric is not a miracle. It is a reminder that some of the most powerful solutions have always been within reach. If you made it this far, you now understand more about this topic than most people ever will. Subscribe and share this with someone who deserves to know the truth behind it.